Welcome to the Cross Crime Channel, the portal to the darkest corners of human history, where we meticulously dissect and analyze true crime cases from around the globe. Before we dive into today's riveting case, remember to show your support by hitting that like button, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement fuels our quest for truth. Now, prepare yourself for an unsettling journey as we unravel the enigma of Suzane Von Richthofen. In the quiet, affluent suburbs of São Paulo, nestled among towering trees and manicured lawns, lay the Von Richthofen family. Their unassuming mansion, hidden in the southern district of Brooklyn, bore a staggering valuation of 3 million Brazilian real, equivalent to $600,000. But this was no ordinary dwelling. It was a fortress of luxury, concealing more than it revealed. The mansion's facade, adorned with exposed brickwork, created a dramatic contrast to the imposing dark iron gates that guarded the entrance. Exotic plants, shrouded in shadows, whispered secrets to the night. Within these four walls, the Von Richthofen family resided, a family burdened by untold stories and enigmatic histories. At the heart of this opulent existence was Manfred Albert von Richthofen, a brilliant German engineer. He directed DERSA, a state-owned juggernaut that governed the intricate web of highways and roads sprawling out from São Paulo. By his side stood Mauricia, a local psychiatrist, whose warm and outgoing nature provided a stark contrast to her husband's quiet demeanor. Their love story, born in the hallowed halls of the University of São Paulo, was of love at first sight. Their union in the 1970s marked the beginning of their dreams of building a family. In 1983, the year of transformation, Suzane Von Richthofen was born on November the 3rd. 4 years later, her brother Andreas arrived, bringing with him the promise of a united family. Beneath the veneer of privilege, Suzane and Andreas spent their formative years, nurtured in the city's most prestigious private schools. Their innate brilliance set them apart, but Suzane, in particular, was defined by her quiet, introspective nature. Though she found solace in a select group of friends and maintained a close-knit relationship with her parents and brother, she shied away from the spotlight. As Suzane's years unfurled, she flourished, mastering 3 languages and embarking on a journey of academic excellence. Her pursuit of a law degree at the Pontifical Catholic University of São Paulo seemed like a natural progression. Money, the least of her concerns, flowed abundantly, with the family's estimated wealth hovering around $17 million. But behind this fortune, veiled in secrecy, lay another layer of intrigue, a rumored 10 million euros hidden away in a Swiss bank account, earmarked for Suzane upon her graduation. It was an inheritance that held the promise of a life of ease and affluence, requiring only her patience and virtuous conduct. Yet, as the story unfolds, shadows deepen and suspense unfurls, like a dark, foreboding cloud over the Von Richthofen mansion. The promise of a comfortable life of privilege becomes entangled in a web of secrets, desires, and chilling mysteries that will shatter the calm facade of this affluent family. The summer of 2002 cast a heavy shadow over the Von Richthofen family, their once harmonious relationship now marred by turbulence. Suzane, at the tender age of 18, had embarked on a treacherous path, one that had little to do with wealth and everything to do with love. 3 years earlier, in the sweltering August of 1999, the Von Richthofens had ventured to a model aircraft fair nestled within the serene expanse of Ibirapuera Park. Andreas, the younger sibling, had found his heart captivated by the world of model airplanes, and fate had steered him toward a chance encounter with an older boy named Daniel Cravenhaus. At the time, Daniel, a 19-year-old with a talent for crafting miniature aircraft, had caught Andreas's curiosity. The Cravenhaus family's humble origins didn't align with the Von Richthofens' affluence, as they hailed from the lower rungs of São Paulo's social ladder. Daniel and his elder brother Christian toiled as mechanics in a local garage, their dreams of education long abandoned. It was this stark contrast, a stark clash of worlds, that drew Suzane to Daniel. His rugged, rebellious spirit beckoned to her quiet, privileged life. As their connection deepened, Suzane chose to keep her blossoming romance with Daniel hidden from her parents, uncertain of their reaction. Over the passing weeks, however, secrets unraveled, revealing a side of Daniel that sent shockwaves through the Von Richthofen household. Initially, her parents seemed unfazed, even permitting Suzane to date Daniel. But beneath his facade as a law student and model airplane enthusiast, Daniel concealed a darker truth. He had abandoned both pursuits, succumbing to a daily haze of marijuana smoke, rendering him lethargic and paranoid. School and employment held no allure for him, as he devoted himself solely to his time with Suzane. Manfred and Mauricia, driven by their desire for the best for their children, could no longer tolerate Suzane's relationship with Daniel. Unknown to Suzane at the time, her brother Andreas served as an unlikely ally, crafting elaborate schemes to shield Suzane from their parents' prying eyes, while she and Daniel retreated to motels and the seclusion of Daniel's home. The air in the Von Richthofen mansion grew heavy with secrets, and the familial bonds that once held them together now strained under the weight of uncertainty. Suzane's secret love affair with Daniel was a spark, igniting a storm that would soon consume them all. Manfred and Mauricia had embarked on a much-anticipated one-month vacation to Europe, entrusting their home to Suzane and Andreas. Suzane, now 18 and craving independence, saw this as an opportunity to prove her maturity to her parents. Little did they know, this month would change their lives in ways they could never have imagined. As the days unfolded, Suzane secretly invited Daniel to move into the family home. Their reckless escapades consisted of days spent lounging by the pool, intoxicated, and experimenting with a variety of drugs. Unknown to Manfred and Mauricia, their house was slowly becoming a den of chaos. Upon their return from Europe, the Von Richthofen household descended into a whirlwind of arguments. Each confrontation left Suzane feeling more desperate. She even approached her father, asking him to buy her an apartment for her and Daniel, dreaming of a life together. But her father's response was a firm rejection, threatening to cut off her allowance. Suzane begrudgingly accepted her defeat, or so it seemed on the surface. Behind the scenes, she continued her secret relationship with Daniel, and their clandestine plans took a sinister turn. November the 1st, 2002, the streets echoed with frantic screams, and the heart-wrenching sounds of horror emanated from the Von Richthofen household. Suzane and Andreas had sneaked out the previous night, returning shortly after 4 a.m. to a gruesome scene that would haunt their nightmares forever. Their parents, Manfred and Mauricia, lay lifeless in their bedroom, victims of a savage and nightmarish assault. Responding officers were horrified by the brutal display of violence. It appeared that multiple methods of murder had been employed. The once recognizable faces of Manfred and Mauricia were nearly unrecognizable, bearing the marks of strangulation and asphyxiation. Mauricia had a garbage bag tied around her head, and it seemed as though the family had been robbed. Money had been forcibly taken from a suitcase, and other areas once brimming with cash were now barren. But as investigators delved deeper, they began to sense that something was amiss. The alarm system had failed to alert the guards stationed across the street, and it appeared that someone with knowledge of the code had disarmed it. Oddly, the ransacked rooms displayed an eerie orderliness, not what one would expect from a frantic burglar. Papers in the office were meticulously placed, raising questions about the true nature of this crime. There were no signs of forced entry, no missing electronic devices, and some rooms remained untouched. The Von Richthofen tragedy left everyone baffled. The media's attention turned to Andreas and Suzane, who responded to the horrifying discovery in different ways. Andreas, overwhelmed by grief, struggled to breathe, while Suzane, despite her apparent sorrow, remained surprisingly composed for someone who had just lost her parents. As police investigated their activities on the fateful night, inconsistencies in Suzane's and Andreas' statements began to emerge. Suzane claimed that her parents supported her relationship with Daniel, a statement that contradicted what was known to be true. A year had gone by before Manfred and Mauricia were finally laid to rest. a solemn occasion that should have brought tears to all eyes. But as the mourners observed, Suzane's eyes remained relatively dry compared to her brother's, Andreas, whose grief poured forth like a torrential rain. Suzane's seemingly emotionless demeanor stirred whispers and raised more than a few eyebrows, but it was only the beginning of the enigma surrounding her. Rumors began to swirl, casting a sinister shadow over Suzane's actions. Whispers spread that she had hosted a pool party in her family home a mere 3 days after her parents' brutal murder. What truly sent shockwaves through the community, however, was the noticeable shift in her emotions when cameras were present. Authorities couldn't ignore these eerie inconsistencies, and their suspicions deepened with each revelation. But what truly tipped the scales in favor of suspicion was an anonymous tip, a revelation from a friend who had noticed a peculiar purchase. Just days after the tragic murders, a man walked into a local motorbike store, buying a Suzuki GSX in full, with nothing but crisp $100 bills. This man was none other than Christian Cravenhose, Daniel's older brother, a name synonymous with financial struggles and drug addiction. The oddness of this purchase raised red flags that authorities couldn't ignore. With their sights set on Christian Cravenhose, officers brought him to the local police station for questioning. To their astonishment, he crumbled under the pressure, admitting to the heinous murder of Manfred and Marisha. His revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Daniel and Suzane had been his accomplices. According to Christian's chilling confession, Suzane and Daniel had conspired to eliminate her parents, to inherit a staggering $17 million, and finally be together. The siblings were apprehended immediately, but their conflicting statements added a layer of complexity to the case. Suzane denied that money was a motive, while Daniel asserted that it was the driving force. As they faced incarceration, their once undying love for each other seemed to wither away, their alliance crumbling like a house of cards. Suzane was eventually released on bail, pending a trial scheduled nearly 4 years after the gruesome crime. During this time, she agreed to an interview with local media, attempting to portray herself as a grieving, innocent victim who had been caught in the crossfire of a tragic conspiracy. In the interview, she shed tears, placing the blame squarely on Daniel's shoulders, accusing him of destroying her family. Her performance painted a picture of a distraught and broken young woman, seemingly innocent and longing for her parents. Little did she know that an unintended third-party camera had captured her lawyer, coaching her to cry and feign vulnerability during the interview. This revelation exposed her as disingenuous, shattering the disguise of innocence she had so carefully constructed. The web of deceit continued to unravel, casting a deeper cloak of suspicion over the true nature of Suzane's involvement in the shocking events that had unfolded. On that fateful night, July the 17th, 2006, the courtroom was electrified with anticipation. The air was thick with tension as Suzane, Daniel, and Christian faced trial, their fate hanging in the balance. It was a trial that would unravel the gruesome events of Halloween night in 2002, covered in darkness and deceit. The jury leaned forward, hungry for every harrowing detail. The night of October the 31st, 2002, was like any other for Marisha and Manfred. They lay in peaceful slumber, unaware that their world was about to be shattered. Thursday had taken its toll, as both had toiled away at their jobs throughout the day. As the clock neared 9 p.m., Andreas silently slipped out of the house, his purported destination a local party, an innocent enough affair. Beside him, Suzane concealed a sinister agenda. Little did anyone know the malevolent plans brewing in her mind. Suzane returned later in her car, accompanied by Daniel and Christian, her companions in darkness. Even the family security guard who caught a glimpse of her remained unsuspecting. Inside the seemingly serene house, Suzane embarked on her sinister mission. She crept into her parents' bedroom, gauging their peaceful slumber. With a nod of confirmation, she deactivated the home alarm, sealing her family's fate. Downstairs, in the living room, Suzane assumed her seat like a puppeteer waiting for her marionettes. Armed with surgical gloves and hoods, Daniel and Christian ascended the stairs with iron crowbars clenched tightly. Violence hung in the air as they mercilessly bludgeoned Mauricia and Manfred. Yet, even as pain coursed through their bodies, the victims clung to life with a tenacity that defied the horrors unfolding around them. In a frantic frenzy to finish what they started, the brothers resorted to bathroom towels, seeking to end the torment. Tragically, they succeeded with Manfred, but Mauricia, though battered, clung to life. Desperation guided Daniel's hand as he hunted for a plastic bag. In a cruel and soulless act, he secured it around Mauricia's head. Minutes stretched into agonizing eternity until her breaths ceased. Their gruesome task complete, the trio staged a twisted display. Papers were scattered in the office, and money was stolen to mask their true motives, a burglary gone wrong. They left the scene, leaving behind a trail of deceit. To cement their alibi, Christian ventured to a fast food restaurant, ensuring he was seen. Meanwhile, Daniel and Suzane retreated to a motel, the veil of darkness concealing their evil deeds. They sought an invoice as evidence of their absence, their plot weaving a complex web of deception. At 3:30 in the morning, Suzane collected Andreas from the local party, returning to the family home. She fabricated shock and horror upon discovering the gruesome crime scene, a chilling act that set the stage for the nightmare to follow. During the trial, Suzane attempted to deflect blame onto Daniel, painting him as the mastermind behind their malevolent actions. She claimed he had drugged her and manipulated her into agreeing to the murders, a web of lies spun to escape the clutches of justice. In retaliation, the Cravenhose brothers insisted they had merely acted upon Suzane's darkest desires, citing her parents as abusive alcoholics. However, these claims fell apart as autopsies revealed no alcohol in Manfred or Mauricia's bodies. The inconsistencies in the Cravenhose brothers' stories left Suzane teetering on the cliff of guilt. Prosecutor Roberto Tradelli branded her the true mastermind, a blonde embodiment of evil, driven by greed and a ruthless desire for the wealth and assets her parents had labored to amass. Suzane sought freedom and independence, but she yearned for it without the burden of honest work, a chilling motive that sent shivers down the spines of everyone in that courtroom. On the ominous date of July the 22nd, 2006, just 5 days into their gripping trial, Suzane, Daniel, and Christian were delivered the damning verdict. Guilty of the cold-blooded murders that had shocked an entire nation. Prosecutors had clamored for 50 years of imprisonment, but justice, it seemed, had a different plan. The courtroom, thick with anticipation, held its collective breath. The weight of their deeds hung heavily over the accused trio as the sentence was pronounced. Suzane and Daniel, architects of her parents' demise, were condemned to 40 years behind prison walls, a prison that couldn't possibly hold all their guilt. Meanwhile, Christian, the shadowy conspirator, was handed a slightly shorter sentence of 38 years. But, as the world would soon learn, Suzane was not one to accept her fate quietly. Her unruly spirit raged against her confinement. In 2014, Suzane faced a critical decision, one that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. She deliberately refused a parole hearing. The reason? To remain incarcerated alongside her enigmatic new bride. A mysterious alliance had taken root between Suzane and Sandra Regina, both imprisoned souls with dark histories. Sandra had been condemned to a long, excruciating 27-year sentence for her role in a heinous child abduction that culminated in a gruesome murder, all stemming from a ransom left unpaid. Whispers in the prison yard hinted at the twisted tale of their connection, alleging that these two souls had first crossed paths in the jail's grim clothing factory. But as fate would have it, their relationship soon soured. Sandra found herself outside the cold, unforgiving bars of confinement once more, leaving her strange union with Suzane far behind. Over the years, Suzane made relentless attempts to claw back her freedom. In a daring move in 2018, she pleaded for release, blaming her egocentrism and personality disorder for her unspeakable crime. A shocking plea, but one that fell on deaf ears. The courts, well aware that being a self-entitled brat could never absolve the horrors she had unleashed upon her own flesh and blood, denied her request. Yet, the aftermath of the case would bring forth more tragic revelations. Suzane's brother Andreas bore the scars of his parents' untimely demise deeper than anyone could fathom. In the year 2017, a chilling event unfolded in the quiet neighborhood. Startled neighbors awoke in the dead of night to discover their sanctuaries violated. There, on the floor, lay a disheveled man, lost and broken. When the authorities arrived, he spoke of fear, not violence, and claimed he no longer cared about his own life. This broken soul was none other than Andreas, clutching his family's valuables, his legs marred by countless scars. The hospital soon became his refuge. As for the old family house, it languished in eerie silence, a monument to unspeakable horrors. Abandoned and forgotten, it withered away over the years, trapped in a relentless cycle of decay. In 2014, it was finally sold to mysterious buyers who painted its facade an unsettling, sterile white. Andreas, once destined for greatness with a promising education and a bright future, had been thrust into the abyss. His loving parents were gone, his sister and friend imprisoned. The darkest corners of his mind beckoned, and though he found solace within the sterile walls of a hospital, his path forward remained shrouded in uncertainty. Perhaps the most bewildering twist in this chilling tale was the possibility that Suzane, the orchestrator of her parents' demise, might inherit their wealth after serving her sentence. A 40-year prison term meant she could walk free, a multi-millionaire, by the year 2042. Fast forward to the unsettling year of 2021, where a shocking incident gripped the nation's attention. It was the story of a seemingly ordinary schoolgirl who had been thrust into the darkest depths of infamy. She was accused of a monstrous act patricide, all in the name of a thirst for notoriety. The young girl, a mere 12 years of age, accompanied by a friend, had taken the life of her own father, a police officer, in a manner eerily reminiscent of the grisly Red Baron slaying, an alias name for Suzane. The Red Baron's name had long sent shudders through the collective conscience, an embodiment of ruthless infamy. It was in this chilling legacy that the schoolgirl sought inspiration for her unthinkable act. Authorities apprehended the twisted duo in the Brazilian state of Santa Catarina, and their demeanor was as unsettling as their crime. There was no remorse to be found, no flicker of conscience in their eyes. Instead, they dared to inquire if their actions would propel them into the same twisted hall of fame as Suzane, an enigmatic figure from the past. The police officer they had so brutally taken from this world, Neef Louis Werlang, was just 46 years old. His life had been extinguished at home, the gruesome signature of his demise etched in the form of stab wounds to his neck. While Suzane remained a captive of the past, her chilling legacy endured, casting a lingering, haunting shadow over the darkest corners of society. Astonishingly, both Suzane and Daniel enjoyed and may continue to enjoy a semi-open regime even during their incarceration. Special holidays and vacations offered them glimpses of a life most prisoners could only dream of. Worse yet, rumors circulated of Suzane attending parties while on holiday parole. A cruel irony in a justice system where killers received respite, while their victims found no such reprieve. And there you have it, the solved case of Suzane Von Richthofen. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next investigation. And if you have any theories or insights about this case, share them in the comments below. Until next time, remember, the pursuit of truth never rests, and in the world of true crime, there are always more mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Stay safe.